Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
We're starting a new month now. It's July 1st with 2 short news stories. They're short, but they're a bit dense, so you really have to pay attention.
And here's a nice little way to jump in and consider what's happening in the news, at least recently. And you get to explore some more interesting vocabulary. I know for me, especially regarding our first story, it gave me something to chew on, and I was able to reach out to my friend from Denmark, so thank you, Fred, and get his perspective. He's a bit younger than the two of us, and I was excited to hear his perspective because he often does see things differently than I do, but he often approaches them in a fair sense. And so we will, I think, share our perspectives, and then I'll make sure to toss in what Fred told me regarding our first story.
I'll look forward to that. Our title is Calling It Quits After 4 Centuries, Denmark to End Letter Delivery. I found that pretty shocking. The government is no longer delivering mail. Now, we have had a problem with the Postal Service everywhere in the world because people are not sending many letters anymore. So I have a letterbox at home, and I almost never, ever get anything in it, even ads.
Do you still check your mailbox daily?
Absolutely. I check it when I leave the building and when I go back in the building because it's right at the entrance of our building. So, yes.
I check it once or twice a week tops because I only get junk and I never really get a letter in the mail. And if I do get a letter, it's generally not good news, but it is important news. So I do check it, however, infrequently. And I have to say your initial reaction mirrors mine, which is why I reached out to Fred, because I was like, man, this is crazy that we're ending letter delivery service because it's easy to kind of think of the mail as a very old and slow thing.
I thought of non-female. Yes, that mail.
Yeah, this mail is an incredible feat of government accomplishment that for much of human history was impossible. And to see it basically be considered irrelevant is almost jaw-dropping from a historical perspective.
Kind of hurts.
Yeah, it also, we're on that side of the line where it says, oh, yeah, this technology is outdated and we're still clinging to it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So my first thought was when I get mail, what is it? Usually it's from the bank or it's from the government that I have to pay some kind of tax. Now, I've got my car registration tax that I'm going to be paying, right? So that's usually what I get in the mail. And I'm happy with that because I know I get my notice and I go pay my stuff. But that's almost all I get. I get nothing else. Occasional ads, and that's it. The other thing that kind of gave me the creeps started many, many years ago when I went to the post office, probably for banking. And I noticed all the signs that were advertising cashews and skin lotion.
Cashews and skin lotion.
Because they are now moonlighting, selling other things because they have less income now from the mail.
Right. Cashews and lotion really caught me off guard. If you had given me 30 minutes, an hour, a week, I would not have arrived at cashews and skin lotion.
And coffee and tea and crackers. They are selling all these things at individual post offices now.
Anything to float. Yeah. I will still say I think Taiwan's mail service is still excellent.
It's great.
And I need to use it regularly because of my student loans, and that means filing taxes, and that means dealing with the American tax system, the IRS. And they made a mistake on my tax form many years ago. They misinterpreted my Taiwan dollars for U.S. dollars.
Oh, no.
And that has never stopped haunting me.
And that's awful.
That's unfortunate. But I still think Taiwan does a very good job of it. I give the postal service here 2 thumbs up from me. Unfortunately, in Denmark, it seems like it's not working out as well.
Yeah. So, right. I also really feel for the Taiwan Postal Service when they're reduced to selling snacks to keep themselves alive. So let's find out what's happening in Denmark, or what has happened in Denmark. Denmark's state-run postal service, PostNord, announced that it would cease letter deliveries at the end of 2025 due to the impact of digitalization. As 95% of its residents now use the digital post service, Denmark has seen a 90% decline in letter volume since 2000, from 1.4 billion to 110 million last year.
On top of that, the Postal Act of 2024 removes the government's obligation to provide universal mail service and puts an end to postal exemptions from value-added tax, raising the cost of a single letter to 29 Danish krone, US $4.20. As a result, PostNord is switching its focus to parcel deliveries, a change that may cause 1,500 job cuts. After 400 years of relying on the postal service, Danes will soon have to turn to private companies for letter delivery.
Another thought I had is we have had a lot of problems with this whole issue of the Postal Service in the U.S., yes. And I thought somebody else beat us to the punch in the government no longer delivering letters.
I think the phrase here in the title is really good, too, calling it quits. That's with an S, and that S is intentional. And this means we're kind of breaking up or ending this relationship.
And we tried for a long time, but it just wasn't working. It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. I don't like you. That's the way that... I'm joking. That's just that's a how current it really joke.
That's what it really means.
That's really what it means.
Yeah.
So my personal opinions regarding the Postal Service will come a little bit later in the second paragraph when we get to the relevant line there.
So 4 centuries is 400 years. Denmark, that tells us the country that we're talking about. My first reaction is they are often touted as the happiest nation on earth. I really do not buy that, any of these happiest nations on earth. But I can say one thing about Denmark is they are a very together country. They are very efficient. They're very effective. A lot of things just work very, very well in Denmark.
I agree with all of these interpretations.
Right. Okay. Our first paragraph. Denmark's state-run postal service, PostNord, announced that it would cease letter deliveries at the end of 2025 due to the impact of digitalization. Now, there are a couple things here to watch out for. So, state-run postal service. Listen to the stress on that. State-run postal service. That is the mail service. PostNord. Nord, you can see, means north in probably the languages of Northern Europe.
That's true.
Nord. It is in German. So, it announced that it would cease. Watch the word cease. C-E-A-S-E. Now, I've warned you that S is often pronounced as Z, but not in this word. It is still S, to cease. To cease and desist means to stop doing something. So cease just means stop. Don't say seize because that's spelled S-E-I-Z-E, and it means to grab something. They're totally different words. Do not mix up the voiced z and seize with the voiceless s and cease. To cease is to stop. Letter deliveries. And here's another compound. We don't say letter deliveries. It's letter deliveries. At the end of this year, 2025, because of the impact, that means the effect or influence of digitalization. And the biggest reason, at least in my experience, is email. So many things we just use email so we do not have to write letters anymore.
I would say even more today. I want to say it's moved on from email, even to just general messaging apps.
That's right.
You can just reach out so much more quickly, even than an email. I still only check my email probably once a day at this point, maybe 2 or 3 times. So let's see. Ranking the mailbox once or twice a week, maybe. Check my email 2 or 3 times a week. Messages,
wow.
I'll check daily.
I have to check email many times every day because a lot of my communications rely on email.
Interesting.
Absolutely. But I know a lot of people don't use it as much. Okay, next sentence. As 95% of its residents now use the digital post service, Denmark has seen a 90% decline in letter volumes since 2000, from 1.4 billion to 110 million last year. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by digital post service. For me, it's email. There is another service that they now have, and that is you send an email to the post office, they print it out, and they deliver the printed email to you. I recently received one of those. It was from a government agency. They wanted to make sure I received it.
Think about what you used to get about 25 years ago in the mail. I had multiple magazine subscriptions. They were dirt cheap. You would get letters and you would get
ads.
You get a lot of ads.
Bills.
You would get flyers from various businesses. And now pretty much the only thing you do get is ads. I think that is like the only thing keeping a lot of postal services around the world afloat.
I barely get ads. I'm really lucky because I have actually unsubscribed to lots of them. For example, a very famous supermarket chain here, I said, stop sending me your catalogs. I don't want them. Yeah. It was a lot of trouble to get them to finally not mail them to me.
I will say I do miss the era of magazines, not because, I work for a magazine, but I genuinely enjoy reading and using the magazines here. And I swear this is not faking it. Like, I genuinely enjoy working out of our magazine's analytical because it's appropriate for my level of Chinese language learning.
Yeah.
And I feel it disconnects me from my phone, that I focus on the vocabulary and I'm able to just kind of go into my dictionary app and look at this character and that. And having that physical object is really wonderful. I kind of miss that era, if I'm not lying.
So foreigners who are learning Chinese, Chris has this great tip. You can use our magazine to learn Chinese.
That's right. I discovered this not terribly long ago, that analytical is a great learning tool for me, and Enjoy is a little bit easier for me. But if you know a person wanting to learn some more Chinese language and don't want to deal with...
At about the high intermediate level?
That's right. And you don't want to deal with a textbook that maybe has a very broad focus on things you don't want.
And is out of date?
Yeah, like the magazines are really useful. You just got to check the vocabulary.
All right, and here the word volumes. In letter volumes, that just means the quantity.
That's right. All right, let's jump to our next paragraph here on top of that. So this massive reduction in letter volumes. On top of that, the Postal Act of 2024 removes the government's obligation to provide universal mail service and puts an end to postal exemptions from value-added tax, raising the cost of a single letter to 29 Danish krone, or US $4.20.
Okay, I would say krona because I'm guessing it might be pronounced in Danish. So let's go back to the beginning of it. On top of that, that means you have a great saying in Chinese for this. That means even beyond what we were talking about, there's something that is even more shocking or is even more earth-shaking. So the Postal Act of 2024, this just happened last year, that their legislature passed a law. That means that the government is no longer required to provide mail service to everybody around the country. And in addition to that, they used to allow, like the money you would spend on stamps and things, to be tax-free, but it's no longer tax-free. So if you're going to mail a letter now, it's going to be taxed.
So the universal mail service is where I run into problems with this. So universal mail service, that means the government has an obligation to make sure everybody in the country can receive mail service. That doesn't mean to your door, but at least that everybody reasonably has the ability to get letters sent to them. In a country the size of Denmark, this seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's a small country.
That's right. In the United States, we also have universal mail service. The United States is a massive country with people living in very remote regions. Mm-hmm. I understand the idea why some people don't like this and they say it's inefficient, but the government is not designed to be efficient. The government is designed as a service to help people live the life they want in their country. I think that removing universal mail service, while maybe makes sense for companies like Amazon and large companies where getting things way out into a remote area might be a problem, the government is there to do the things that corporations don't want to take the risk to do.
Or have no profit in.
I mean, that's really what this is. And as we reach the very end of this, the profit motive becomes very clear. Let's continue. As a result, PostNord is switching its focus to parcel deliveries, a change that may cause 1,500 or 1,500 job cuts.
Now, that hurts to hear about, but we know that inevitably happens when new technology becomes much more efficient at doing something.
So parcel deliveries just means boxes that you order from Shopee or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. After 400 years of relying on the postal service, Danes, that's people from Denmark, will soon have to turn to private companies for letter delivery, and that means some areas will not get served.
That's right. So you're going to have to find another way to get your news. People who were not online before or didn't know how to use email are going to have to figure it out.
Now, just from a quick perspective from a 24-year-old Dane, my dear friend Fred told us that he's not against it, and it seems to be mostly old people that are against it.
Right.
And I told him that he and I are going to have a fight after saying that.
I'm an older person, but man, I don't feel it at all. I get no more mail.
Yeah, I get it. Denmark is moving to full digitalization, and many shops don't even accept cash anymore. And he said, most importantly to him, this is much more eco-friendly, which I said, okay, good point.
That's right. So with that, we are going to move on to our second article today, which is entitled QR Codes to Become New Google Security Feature. Although sending you an SMS, short message service verification code, provides some security, many apps now use code-generating apps and two-factor authentication instead. But more recently, passkeys now use a biometric approach to logging in. Biometrics can offer an even more secure alternative.
Following this trend, Google is reportedly planning to replace SMS verification codes with QR code scanning. SMS codes are currently used to verify user identity and prevent fraudsters from creating fake Gmail accounts to distribute spam. However, these codes present several challenges. They can be phished through suspicious links, and users may not always have access to their registered devices. With the QR code, users will simply scan it with their phone's camera instead of entering a 6-digit code.
This sounds really techy, but they're just describing things that all of us do every day just to get anything done online. So our title again is QR Codes to Become New Google Security Feature. So QR codes are replacing something that we have been using up until the current time. So our first sentence, although sending you an SMS, short message service verification code, provides some security, many apps now use code-generating apps and two-factor authentication instead. Now, like I said, these are all techie, but it's stuff you do every day. So very often, when you are logging into a site or you're making a purchase online, they will send you a code to make sure that you are telling the truth, that you really are using this email or whatever it is, and you send the code back to them. Or they send it to your phone more often, your phone messages. So in the past, this has been the most common way of trying to make sure that you are a real person, you are who you say you are, and you are not a fraudster trying to steal something. So they send you a message to your phone, you send the number back that they give you, and that provides some kind of security. But later on, people started using another approach, and that was apps that generate a code automatically, or something called two-factor authentication. You should be familiar with that. Just translate it into Chinese and you'll know what it is. So they moved from the first thing to the second thing and the third thing more often.
So we can look at the word verification, and I'd like you to underline V-E-R-I. That's the Latin root for truth. It's veritas. And in fact, it's been a very interesting word for a very long time. It's the origin of the check mark. So Romans would often use a letter V when they receive a box or shipping to make sure they did indeed get it. Yes, I did get it. It's true. And they would write the letter V to say, yes, I got it. But over time, those guys got a little lazy and the left side of the check mark, the left side of the letter V got shortened and it turned into our modern check mark.
So it's a very interesting word that we use very often now. It's also found in the word very. It comes from the same root.
Very interesting.
Okay. But more recently, passkeys now use the biometric approach to logging in. Now, you may not know what a passkey is, but it's something that you have also used as you've been online. And biometric you may not use, but you might recognize bio from biology. And metric is to measure. So that means they measure something like on your face or your thumbprint or something like that to make sure that you really are the person you are claiming to be. So we're going from SMS messages to code generating apps, to two-factor authentication, and now to something new, namely biometric. We're using biometrics. And these, like I said, involve physical characteristics of your body.
It's interesting because in the past, these were easy to fake. So maybe it's the combination of factors that biometrics become more secure when used alongside of other factors, because you almost always have your thumb or your face with you, and then you can get the QR code, and then you can enter your password or passkey All of these things together create layers of security to help people.
That's right. And as our last sentence now says, biometrics can offer an even more secure alternative.
But they are not really that great all by themselves as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Let's continue following this trend. Google is reportedly planning to replace SMS verification codes with QR code scanning.
So all of us are familiar with QR codes, more in Taiwan, I think, than in the U.S. right now, but we use them all the time.
Yeah, you get some numbers and you have to enter them, and that's a good idea. But if anybody can see your screen through messaging apps, they're able to generate those really, really quickly. Like, think if you have a 4 or 6 digit code, a sufficiently powerful computer can crack that password in literally seconds. So
right.
You need something quite more significant than just 6 numbers. SMS codes are currently used to verify user identity and prevent fraudsters from creating fake Gmail accounts to distribute spam.
So this should be pretty straightforward. We already know what SMS codes are. So we're still using them now. We want to keep people who are trying to scam you, fraudsters, from creating fake Gmail accounts. We don't want them to distribute spam. We all hate having all of these ads in our mailbox, which are usually scams.
They can even do much worse things by pretending they are you, by having access to your account. It can be very dangerous. I hope the worst thing they would try to do is just send spam.
Right.
Let's continue. However, these codes present several challenges.
That just means there are going to be some problems. It's not really clear sailing ahead.
They can be phished through suspicious links, and users may not always have access to their registered devices.
So, for example, somebody may send you a link. They say, we have a problem with your account. Please click here and log in. They are just getting your password.
And if you don't know how to double check that, look at the top. It should have a lock. The correct URL should be spelled correctly. It should be familiar. And you should also have https://. If you can do those 3 things, then you're probably safe. But if you're not sure, just wait.
That's right. And if it's an email, you can kind of mouse over the address and you'll find that the address you're actually sending it to is not at all the real place that you think that you are writing to.
That's an excellent point. With a QR code, users will simply scan it with their phone's camera instead of entering a 6-digit code.
Now, I have to say that scanning takes time. I have to open my photo app and it has to find the QR code and then I have to open it in the browser. I personally think it's kind of a lot of trouble.
I think that's kind of the point, is that Gmail and other tech people are thinking, what can we do that will prevent people from having to remember a bunch of words and things, because we know people are very bad at keeping good passwords, but what can we do that's still easy and still adds a layer that maybe it's annoying, but it does protect them? I think the people creating these codes are trying their best to protect ourselves from ourselves.
That's right. But as soon as we do anything, then what happens?
Yeah, people cut those corners and try to find a way around to make it easier. And
it happens pretty fast. Well, with that in mind, please tune in next time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.